Hey, what's up? We're in the next part. To gauge your bearings, please go check out the previous part to figure out what we're talking about. Hey, Crancan. Please go check out the next part, the previous part. So, yeah. No, I was telling you about this, that, okay, Crancat, that was not an invitation to come inside. What ended up happening to the standards of education. So, I have a cousin that is younger than me by 6 years. So, the plunge from glory happened much faster than even when my sister was in school. It happened around the time when my cousin was still in high school, and she was not in high school at the same time as me because I'm older than her by 6 years, but it's a small enough gap for there to not have been that much of a change. But by the time my cousin was in some grade of high school, there was no longer standard grade or higher grade, at least in mathematics. They had done away with standard grade and changed it up to something called pure maths and maths literacy. Pure maths and maths literacy. Okay, so pure maths would be the tantamount, I imagine, of higher grade maths, while maths literacy is not even maths at all. It might as well be maths theory, like being trained, who Pythagoras was, and 1 + 1 = 2, and that a triangle must have 180 degrees in totality, and it, I don't know, like, this is the formula for a triangle, this is the formula for a circle, this is the formula for a square, this is the formula for a straight line. So that's it. That's maths lit. Like, just something that's, a math student in grade 5 would get, but at matric level. Yes, that's maths literacy. Imagine teaching a matriculant grade 5 pure maths. And back in the day when I was on the come up, just an embarrassment. I would know this is true because my cousin was lazy and got exhausted with pure maths and moved over to, never mind standard grade maths, but to maths literacy. And when then you did math literacy, you could not get into university for a BCom. You could not get in for any subject at university that required you to have any kind of mathematics. They did not see math lit as maths at all. And there are some kids that took maths lit unbeknownst to themselves that this is not the same as maths. And so therefore, you want to be an engineer or an architect, you will get maths lit, dream on. So they got to matric and got severely disappointed because there's also not sufficient career guidance going on in schools. Like, things has to have just fallen. My little sister, when she was in high school, upon observing or perusing the content that they were studying, I was shocked out of my mind. It was so low in comparison to what I was studying. What subjects did she do that I did? Not many. I think she did biology. Just the content, the quality of the information that she was doing in her biology, guys. What in the world? I was like, how is this preparing you for varsity? How is this preparing you for even the workforce? What is this? They did that. They kept on reshuffling it and doing some warped version of it until there was no longer any value in the education system at all that you could get out of it. So I don't know what entry into university or the criteria looks like today, and I don't know what the retention rate of students from first year to third year and to graduate program looks like today. I don't know if it's much worse or much better than what it was when I was in first year. All I know is that the South African standard of education has been plunging. It has been reducing over the years. They have been increasingly bringing the goalpost in more and more, shortening or bringing down the ceiling, with which people, the ceiling height at which people ought reach certain goals. They've been bringing it down and down and down and down over the years to a point where there is no longer any striving needed to pass. I forgot to mention this. When I got out of high school, I told you that standard grade, they were passing them at 38%. Higher grade, they were passing them at 40%. Well, my sister's generation, people could pass at 30. And even then, if your child did not get 30% and across their subjects, and so therefore pass, if they failed by the standards of the school, the parents could just rock up and write a letter and be like, I don't want my kid to stay in grade 10, and the school would be obliged to move them to the following year. So parents get to decide if their kids pass or not the school. So if your kid would feel embarrassed and maybe low-key suicidal by failing grade 10, the parent could just very simply say my kid is going to make it to grade 11, which is by far, I believe, still to this day, the most difficult year in high school. You just get moved on. They just like push kids along. So that's how South Africa got to improve their matric pass rates year on year. They have been gloating in the media about these improvements in pass mark. Hey, Cat Puma, you can't sleep in the car. They've been gloating about improvement. Hey, when I Cat, about the improvement of the pass mark over the years. How South Africa's doing so much better. We're doing a better thing. It's look at us. But this is only because they have so significantly tarnished the quality of passing that kids are just getting through on 30%. 30. Got maths lit. So what's happening to our doctors, if at all they exist? What's happening to our engineers? What's happening to these kids that are getting into university that are supposed to be within these careers? They are reducing in number, meaning our workforce does not have as high quality of students as it used to. And those that do make it out of university with their degrees, they're getting poached by other nations. And there are ambassadors of Africa busy complaining on news networks that this African diaspora with all of our African educated workforce leaving, y'all need to stop. South Africa keeps on complaining about a skills exodus out of the country. Do you want to know why there is a skills exodus in South Africa? When you exasperate people who actually work like a dog with other people who weigh them down because they're lazy, they get out because they don't want to be the only ones working like dogs for little reward. There's so much corruption that people are not getting promotions as they ought, and there is also so much corruption that those that are really good at what they do are overwhelmed by the sheer weight of work that they have to do to compensate for the lackluster conglomerate. And because of envy and jealousy, those who are not actually pulling their weight are also actively squeezing those who are good out. So the country is literally bleeding. And that's what happened to me. A person that was knocked out of the way by a whole bunch of lazy people that brought down the quality or the standard of employee quality and my organization. I spoke about that the other day. I'm not going to expand on it at length, but I am doing this whole segment to help you understand just what happens in a country when God is judging it and how gradual its impending is. Like it's a creeper. It's pernicious. It started, I saw it literally as early as 1999. As early as 1999, when I was in grade 9, they reduced the standard of passing from 50% to 45%. But no, it didn't even start in 1999. It might have even started in 1995 or 4, because when my sister was in high school, that's when they did away with maths just being maths, but they broke it down into a lower version of mathematics and a higher one. Higher grade, standard grade, and lower grade. So here it is that 1994. We enter into a new South Africa, and just a few years down the line, they had already decimated the education system, and the only kids that were still studying at some normal level height were in private schools. And private schools in this country are violent. They are more expensive than universities. They are crazy expensive, and Lonnie Ridge kids or kids with scholarships are the only ones that get to study there. And they're also like a small number in comparison to the government schools. So even though they might be of high quality in terms of what they're consuming, they're still a small number in comparison to the South African workforce. Our standard of education was better in the days of apartheid, and the only reason why that is the case is because they decided to undermine the masses of children that would be coming into the schools that are of different groups. They assumed we were dumb, and upon seeing the plunge in the pass rate that they could not explain away with the law of large numbers and anticipate that after a little while, after a teething phase, it will go up again and incline, because we will have now, been gradually introduced to the new way of doing things, that the stats will start to pick up again, instead of in this teething phase employing the right kinds of strategies. They just reduce the pass rate and the standards of education rate of the whole country at large. And so there is this like mass exodus of intelligence out of the country. There is a dumbing down, there is an undermining of natural intelligence given to children. They underestimate themselves, and there was also a laziness, a lethargy that has been injected into the country. What in the world does that do to the economy eventually after a good 30 years? What? I'm 38 now, eh? All this rubbish started when I was just 15, maybe even 12. What after all these years have progressed does the country then start to look like? It starts to look like a grey listing by the World Economic Frigging Forum. Next part.